There's a quiet moment we all experience, though most of us never name it. It's that instant when someone tries to get close, whether through love, friendship, or simple kindness, and something inside us tightens. We smile, we nod, maybe even say the right words, but beneath the surface, the heart pulls back. It retreats behind a wall it built long ago, and often we don't even realize it's happening. I know this because I lived most of my life in that guarded state without knowing it. On the outside, everything looked fine. I was capable, I was giving, I was even deeply compassionate. I actually attracted people who were drawn to my giving energy. But deep compassion for others doesn't necessarily mean deep openness to receiving love myself. The truth was, my heart was closed more often than it was open. And it wasn't until I started to recognize the signs of that closure, to truly see how it was shaping my relationships and my choices, that I started my journey of moving from guarded to glowing. So let's talk about what it really means to recognize when your heart is closed. It doesn't always look like the obvious things. It's not always walking around saying, I don't trust anyone, or avoiding relationships altogether. Sometimes a closed heart wears the disguise of busyness, of constant caretaking, of being fine when you're not. Sometimes it's in the way you laugh things off or hiding alone instead of letting someone in on how deeply you're hurting. And sometimes it's in the stories you tell yourself. They wouldn't understand me anyway. Or if I share too much, they'll take advantage of me. For me, one of the clearest patterns was overgiving. I would pour myself into others, friends, family, partners, and at first glance, it seemed like generosity. But underneath, there was fear. If I gave enough, if I proved my worth through constant effort, then maybe I wouldn't be abandoned. Maybe I would finally feel safe. What I didn't realize was that this was my heart's way of hiding. By focusing on giving, I didn't have to risk receiving. And receiving, whether love, care, or even simple attention, felt terrifying. A closed heart, then, often shows up in paradoxical ways. You might be longing for intimacy, but constantly choosing partners who are emotionally unavailable. You might crave support, but never allow yourself to ask for help. You might want to be truly seen, but every time someone gets close, you pull back or distract yourself with work, with achievements, with endless tasks that keep you safely behind a wall. And here's the thing, none of this means you're broken. None of this means you are incapable of love. It simply means your heart learned long ago that it wasn't safe to be open. Maybe as a child, you reached for love and didn't receive it. Maybe you were left or betrayed or made to feel that your emotions were too much. Maybe the world around you was so chaotic that the only way to feel stable was to build a fortress inside yourself. Whatever the reason, your heart did what it knew to do. It protected you. It made you guarded because guarded felt safer than shattered. The problem is, what once kept you safe eventually becomes the very thing that keeps you from love. The guarded heart doesn't let in the hurt, but it also doesn't let in the joy. It dulls the pain, but it also dulls the magic of connection. And sooner or later, you start to feel it. The loneliness that creeps in even when you're surrounded by people. The sense of being unseen no matter how hard you try. The cycles of relationships that seem to repeat the same heartbreak again and again. The shift from guarded to glowing isn't about tearing down those walls all at once. That's too frightening, too destabilizing. It begins with awareness. It begins with noticing gently. Okay, my heart is closed right now. When you catch yourself dismissing someone's kindness, or when you feel yourself freeze at the thought of opening up, that's the signal. And instead of shaming yourself or trying to force openness, you pause. You acknowledge that this closing once protected you. And in some ways, it still thinks it's keeping you safe. That recognition alone is the first softening. For me, one of the first moments of true awareness came during a simple conversation. Back in college, a classmate once said to me, "Do you remember the day we moved into the dorm? I asked if I could help you, but you turned me down." My feelings were actually hurt. I felt this wall between us. Her words hit me like a sting. The truth was, I did want help. I was the only freshman in my dorm who moved in alone, without parents or family. But the words caught in my throat, and I couldn't let them out. That moment showed me more clearly than ever how much my heart had learned to hide. Still, it was only the first glimpse. It took me decades to fully understand how locked my heart really was. And I don't want you to spend so many years in the dark the way I did. So, how do you begin to move toward glowing, toward living with an open, radiant heart? Slowly, tenderly, with compassion for every part of you that still believes openness is dangerous. One of the first steps is learning to listen inward. Your body will tell you when your heart is closed. You might feel a tightness in your chest, a knot in your stomach, a sudden urge to look away when someone is too present with you. Instead of ignoring the signals, notice them. Place a hand on your chest and breathe. Whisper to yourself, I see you. I know you're protecting me. This act of acknowledgement is like speaking directly to your heart's armor. It helps it know it doesn't have to fight so hard. The next step is allowing yourself to receive in small doses. Receiving doesn't always mean grand gestures of love. It can be as simple as letting someone hold a door for you. And instead of brushing it off, pausing to truly say thank you and feel their kindness. It can be noticing when someone compliments you and resisting the urge to deflect. These small openings accumulate. Each one sends a message to your heart. It's okay. It's safe to let a little light in. Another piece of moving from guarded to glowing is learning to share yourself honestly. Not everything, not all at once, but small truth. Maybe you tell a friend, I've actually been feeling lonely lately. Or you admit, that comment really hurt my feelings. These moments of honesty are terrifying at first, but they're the cracks in the wall where love can slip in. And yes, it's risky. There will be times when you open and it doesn't go the way you hoped. But here's the deeper truth: the glowing heart doesn't wait for the guarantee of safety before opening. It learns that the very act of openness is where the beauty lies, even if not everyone responds with care. You remain aligned with your own authenticity. And in that authenticity, the right people, the ones who can meet you with love, begin to find you. I remember vividly the first time I felt what I would call a glowing heart. It wasn't in some grand romantic moment. It was during a quiet hike, the sun setting, the air cooling, and suddenly I felt this flood of warmth in my chest. I felt connected to myself, to the world around me, to something bigger than me. It wasn't about anyone else's love in that moment. It was about my own heart finally daring to stay open, to radiate instead of retreat. And the more I nurtured that, the more I noticed life responding differently. Relationships deepened, conversations felt richer. Even strangers seemed to connect with me more easily. From guarded to glowing isn't a straight line. There will be days when your heart wants to close again, when old fears resurface. That's part of the process. What matters is that you notice, that you keep returning to yourself with compassion instead of judgment. With time, the guarded moments become fewer, and the glowing ones become your new home. And maybe the most important things to remember is this: your heart doesn't need to be perfect to be open. It doesn't need to be free of scars or completely healed. In fact, it is often the cracks in our hearts that allow the light to shine through most brightly. To glow is not to be flawless. To glow is to be willing to risk, to be willing to feel, to be willing to let love in, even when it scares you. So, if you've been wondering whether your heart is closed, and if you've been longing for the day when you feel more alive, more connected, more at peace, know that the path is always opening before you. It begins with awareness. It deepens with a small act of receiving. It blossoms through honesty and vulnerability. And it continues with patience, compassion, and courage. One day, you will look back and realize that the guarded version of you did their very best to protect you. You will thank them for their service, and then you'll smile because now you're glowing. And that glow, once sparked, can light up not only your life, but the lives of everyone around you.